So they say, let me think about it. See, that's not an objection. It's your client silently asking for courage. Yeah, courage. And your job isn't to get quiet. It's not to get combative. It's to get calm and clear and committed to leading them forward. See, if you retreat when they need you most, when they need the courage to not think about it, but actually make a decision, your close rate will always reflect your fear and not your skill. See, when people are making a decision, when they're giving you the let me think about it, isn't a request for more time. It's a stall tactic because they just aren't certain enough yet, or it's something that they're afraid to do. And because they're afraid to do it, they need more certainty. And if you accept it at face value, as though it was, a time issue, you've just agreed to lose your sale. Your job is to recognize it for what it really is. And that's what you've got to do. And you've got to keep that conversation alive right in that moment when they need you the most. In almost every single case, it means one of three things. Either they don't have the money and you didn't qualify them, or they don't see the value and you didn't build it, or they don't see the urgency and you didn't create it. But whichever one of those things it is, it's really a you either problem or opportunity, depending on how you respond. See, if you know this going in, you can lead them to clarity instead of just letting them drift into the land of, undecision. Every sales conversation is a closing contest with yourself, really. Either you're closing them on why they should act now, or they're closing you on why they shouldn't. And the moment you agree to follow up later, you give up momentum. You reinforce their decision to slow play this, to kick the decision downstream. The emotional connection fades, and they slip back into the comfort zone of their own problem that they told you they wanted to solve. And that's why you're there. You're there to solve their problem. And by letting them think about it, letting them drift back into indecision is the worst thing you can do. In my carpet cleaning business, I used to get people to say, let me think about it after giving them a quote. Almost none of those people ever called me back. Now think about it. Why were they calling me in the first place? Why do I have them as a lead? How did they come through my marketing funnel? It came in because, the dog peed on the carpet, or the kid spilled Kool-Aid, or the cat peed on the carpet, or the traffic. They're unhappy with their carpet, with the look of their home, their most precious resource, their biggest investment. And now I'm on the phone with them, giving them a price to solve that problem, and they're telling me, let me think about it. None of them called me back. Not because they didn't want their carpets clean, but because life got in the way. Urgency fades the second you walk away. Chances are Mrs. Jones has probably been thinking about getting that carpet clean for 3 months. So that urgency has faded away the second you walk away. And from then on, once I realized that, I started to close in the moment by showing them exactly why today was the day for them to make that decision, why today really mattered. I wasn't talking to them by accident. You've been thinking about this for a long time. How long have you been wanting to get the carpets serviced, Mrs. Smith? Oh, we've been thinking about it for a couple of months. They're not going to get cleaner on their own, right? I mean, you vacuumed them. You've done everything you could do. You've used Resolve in a rag. Don't you want to just get this behind you? Don't you want to know that the kids are safe as they play around on the floor, or that when guests come in the home, they're not hit with the scent of urine? See, I want you to start setting the frame. And that means setting the rules before the game starts, so that there's no surprises at the end. You tell the client right up front, by the end of this conversation, we'll both know if it's a yes or a no. Now, this takes the let me think about it right off the table. At the end of the conversation, we're going to have a decision, either yes or no. See, when you give them permission to say no, you remove the pressure and you earn their trust. That trust gives you the authority to guide the conversation without fear of them slipping away into indecision. And by naming the stall tactic before it happens, by preemptively mentioning this, you make it even harder for them to use it later and easier for them to be honest with you when there's a real objection to discuss. And almost always, those objections are centered around an area of uncertainty. So this positions you as the leader, as the originator in the conversation, not the follower. Remember, leaders set the frame. Leaders decide the pace. Leaders decide the course of action. And leaders don't walk away without a decision. Yes or no? Now look, before we go any further, I want you to grab the free 17 closing moves as a guide that I created for you. It's a playbook that you can use today designed to shift the energy of your sales conversations and lead your prospects to clear, confident decisions. These aren't hype tricks or pushy closes. They're very practical, permission-based moves that keep you in the originator seat from hello to the signature. If you've ever gotten to the end of a call and felt that the momentum was slipping, if you've heard "let me think about it" and you didn't know how to bring that back to center, this guide gives you the exact words, phrases, and language patterns to regain clarity and close without going into convincer mode. Now, the link is right below this video in the description, so download it now, print it out, and keep it nearby and start using it on your very next call. And then come right back because you don't want to miss what I'm going to be sharing next. See, when you hear "let me think about it," your first move is to call it out directly. I say something like this, Jim, when people say that to me, what they usually mean is this just isn't a right fit. And you just don't want to hurt my feelings. Is that what's happening here? I'm going to call it right out. See, that directness cuts through the fog and puts the real issue right on the table where we can deal with it. And once it's out there, you can circle back to why they came to you in the first place. Why did you come to me as a coaching lead or a carpet cleaning lead or for roof services? So remind them of the pain point they described or the opportunity they said they wanted. Because reconnecting them to their emotional driver reopens the window for a decision. Remember, all sales are made through emotional decisions. 9 times out of 10, it's usually about something around money or value. So call it out. It's the money, isn't it, right, Jim? Is the investment more than you thought you would have to make? See, the real obstacle is now on the table. And now we can work on solution mode, offer payment options, adjust the scope without destroying the value, find creative ways to make the investment possible without discounting your worth. See, I had a corporate prospect tell me, let me think about it. Let me talk it over with my team. See, in the past, I might have walked away and said, hey, no problem. Let me leave you with some information and I'll get back to you next week. Is that good? See, instead, I asked Jim, what's the real concern? What's the real concern? And he said, look, it's the budget. And so I reframed my fee against the cost of low morale and turnover. And he books me on the spot. See, that's what happened when you surface the real objection, when you get rid of the smoke screen and you get to the truth of uncertainty. See, urgency isn't about cornering them or trapping them, manipulating them. It's about showing the real cost of doing nothing. What you have to do is you have to make later expensive. You've got to make being and doing this decision later feel very expensive by painting the picture of what it costs them every single day they stay where they are. So you reframe the investment against the cost of the problem. If solving their problem creates more value than it costs to work with you, delaying becomes the most expensive choice that they can make. See, the deepest urgency is tied to who they see themselves becoming. You help them see that this decision as a defining moment, an act of leadership in their own life, and the position now as the choice that aligns with the person that they want to be, with the outcome that they desire. See, you want to root urgency in opportunity, not indecision, not fear, not uncertainty. You want to focus on the gains that they're going to make, the progress that they can start right now. We can get you enrolled in the program today, and that there's an advantage of moving before this window closes, before the bonus goes away or the price changes or before the class is filled. See, when urgency is anchored to value and possibility, the client leans in willingly instead of pushing back defensively. And that's when I'll think about it begins to disappear. See, if you truly believe in the value of what you offer, you have a level 10 of certainty. You have a moral obligation to close that sale. If you know you can help them and you know you're the right solution, you have an obligation to do everything possible to fight for their outcome. Letting a client walk away in indecision leaves them stuck in the very problem they came for you to solve. Not only did you not make the sale, you didn't do your job. See, your certainty, your absolute certainty that your solution can solve their problem becomes contagious. If you lose it, they'll catch that too. If you've got doubt, they'll feel that. So when you stay anchored and calm and certain, they feel safe following your lead. Your role in that moment is to create the conditions where the decision feels inevitable, where the next step is obvious and safe, because you've led them there with clarity, with confidence, and with certainty. This is what transformation is all about. This isn't a transaction. See, every sale you make is a change in someone's life, and that change only happens if you had the courage to lead them through the resistance of I'll think about it. I'll think about it. They're in indecision because they're afraid to make a decision. I once had a coaching prospect say, look, Paul, I'm going to give it some thought. I said, look, if you walk away today, nothing changes. What kind of coach would I be if I allowed you to walk away today in indecision? You told me you can't afford to stay where you are. So what's really stopping you? And sure enough, it was the money. And I offered a structured payment plan. They signed, and later they thanked me for pushing them to decide. See, you can't help them if you don't close them. You'll never outperform your own self-belief, your own self-courage. You've got to see yourself as the originator, as the leader in every single sales engagement, whether it's a telephone call, a text message, an email, a face-to-face meeting, the one bringing clarity and urgency and certainty. And when you do that, you watch. The let me think about it turns into the let's do this. Now look, if you haven't already downloaded the 17 Closing Moves Guide, go grab it now using the link that's in the description. You're going to walk away with really practical, time-tested language patterns that you can use to lead conversations with calm confidence and zero pressure. And you can do it today on your next call. And once you've got it, watch the next video, Making Follow-Up Calls to Customers. And there, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to re-engage with all of those old leads who told you, let me think about it, and then they ghosted you, and how to work with reactive kind of cold prospects, and how to follow up without sounding desperate. Because the fortune isn't just in the follow-up. It's in the how you follow up, how you show up. So download the guide, watch the next video. I'll see you there.